Well, no one does this quite like my erstwhile partner, Jim, but I will try to do it as well as I can. Today is January 30th, 2025, and this is podcast number 513, All the Leads podcast number 513. And as Jim would also probably say, we're well on our way to 1,000. So we'll get rolling with that. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you being here, taking the time out of your day to join us. Um, this is the All the Leads Mastermind podcast. Jim will not be joining us today, so you will miss his sweet voice and delightful presence. He is off being a grandfather again today. Um, they had a new granddaughter born this morning, I think a little bit after 9 o'clock. I have seen pictures. She is as of yet unnamed. I've recommended Timothea, but I recommend that a lot. Nobody ever seems to take me up on Timothea. I think it's a great name, but who knows? Some people just don't have discerning taste. Baby looks cute, looks just like Darcy, looks just like her sister. So very, very cool to see that. And Jim will be back next week, but he will not be with us today. Uh, Very quickly, just to kind of set the stage about how this all works. Those of you who are on it and have been here and join us every week, we appreciate you being here. There's a button on the bottom of your Zoom screen called React, and on that there is a thing called Raise Hand. If you click on that, it does what it just did on mine, and a little hand comes up, and we'll know that you want to be called on and talked to. And that's what we're here for. We're literally here to take your calls, to talk with you about the things that are important to you and that we can help you with. It's not just the people that have blue on their screen that can help. Everybody on this call we're always astounded by the amount of time that people are willing to give and offer and great suggestions for everything that's going on. So we're here to talk about divorce, probate, pre-probate, aged expireds, late mortgage, and anything else that's on your mind as far as the real estate industry is concerned. We're happy to talk with you and looking forward to answering your questions. But again, click on the React button and the raise your hand to be recognized. If you put it into text, and a lot of people do that, sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. So, because we kind of get busy talking and sometimes we don't get to it. So we're looking forward to hearing from you and making this your call. Want to hear about your successes. We want to hear about your challenges. And we've got some really great people on here to answer your questions and work with you. And with that, I'm going to actually start with Mr. Bird this morning. Bill and I talked a little bit before the call started, and he was talking about how excited he is so far that 1/12 of the year is almost over already, which sounds impossible to even say. But he's excited about how the year's going so far, and he talked to me about why. Why don't you just kind of start there, Bill, and let's kick it off there. Why are you so excited? What's up with you, bud?
So in my area, Northern California, market is really vibrant. There are multiple offers. Things are not going way over, but they are going over, or they're very short terms, or they're removing contingency up front. But the bigger thing I'm excited about has been working these divorce leads in Marin County for several months, pretty hard trying to find a way in. And what I've really learned is to call them and just say that I have clients looking for homes in the area. I use that a lot. Seems to be neutral. And I introduce myself. Sometimes it goes far, sometimes it doesn't. But no matter what happens, is I send a card to them, handwritten. I also put them in Homebot. And a lot of them almost always request a CMA on a Homebot. And in the past, I've just used Toolkit CMA, emailed it to them, didn't work. The last 5 or 6, I've put a complete CMA presentation, kind of like a pre-listing package, in a imitation leather binder that I get from Amazon. And I've gotten 2 listing appointments out of that. One, I have signed that listing, and I'm looking forward to bringing that on in March. So it just kind of seems to be a little bit more of an end. The other thing I've learned is I don't bring up the divorce. I don't mention it. It just kind of comes up, right? It may come up in the first conversation or after they get the CMA or the package, but it is starting to come up more naturally than me saying, I understand you might be getting a divorce or there might be some issues, or I've tried a lot of different entrances and they normally blew up in my face. So far the soft pedal seems to work. Following up with a card, following up with Homebot. If anybody doesn't use Homebot, I really encourage them to check it out. And then as soon as they want a CMA, send something that's a lot more professional, a lot more detailed than what our normal package would be.
So you decided that calling him up and saying, "Hey, I hear you're getting a divorce," that's not the right way to do that.
Not even close.
Uh,
Yeah. And I definitely pounded that for a little while. I'm kind of a tough learner at times, but I don't give up. Yeah.
well, you don't for sure, my friend. You don't. Well, that's great. And, I think all too often we don't focus on, we've spent obviously over a decade working on probate, and um, we're continuing. We've got some interesting stuff that'll be coming out next month in regard to the other disciplines, in particular, some stuff about divorce that we think is going to be exciting, and also for late mortgage that are going to help you dramatically in terms of doing it. Just giving you some tools to use, and it's great to hear that you're having success doing what you're doing, and do keep us posted on that. And I think the important thing to realize is that the people who are on here, who are the coaches who are offering their time and opinions about what we're doing, they're also making a living doing what we're doing. They're not just sitting here coming along and coaching and telling you stuff they know. They're actually working realtors. They're getting the job done, buying, selling, listing, doing the things that need to be done. And that's the beauty of where the rubber meets the road here. Uh, they're not just beautiful faces smiling at you. They're people that have real life experience in making things work. So that's important. So, again, if you have something to be heard about, be delighted to, raise your hand and be heard. We'd love to hear from you. Um, and Matt, I'm gonna ring your bell here in a second, so be prepared for that. But I'm gonna switch to Bruce first. Bruce, how are you today, sir?
Oh, really good. I just got excited about two things that Bill said. So can I start there, or do you want to know something else?
No, sir. You can
All
fire
right.
away.
So Bill said two things that really resonated with me. Number one is he sends them his package after a conversation. Uh, Huge plus. I can't endorse that kind of thing enough. You guys need to stand out. That's the bottom line. Um, Divorce or probate, or well, divorce and probate, those are the two, and pre-probate, those are the lead sources that don't have tons of competition, but there may be a little bit. Okay. And we always need to recognize the majority of the population knows a handful of realtors or real estate investors. Um, and you just need to separate yourself. You have a conversation, you've got a little bit of a runway, you've got a good start. If the only thing that you ever do after that point is call them every month, you're probably not going to separate yourself. You should most likely assume that there's some other people that are talking to them periodically as well. So make sure that you're putting value in front of people, that you have a strategic and a planned game plan for follow-up communication and marketing to your leads, both before you've started the conversation and after. And then the other thing that Bill said that I really liked is he talked about the mistakes that he made. I don't listen to anyone who hasn't made mistakes. Right. There's a lot of people that are out there that either are just so naturally gifted that they could do the wrong thing and it work. And that's very, very few people. But there are people like that. They can do the wrong thing and it can work. Or um, they got lucky. And I'm not necessarily going to learn a lot from that. So what Bill just said about kind of doing it the wrong way and having to make adjustments and having to tweak the approach. That should tell you guys everything. That's the type of person that you want to learn from. And with that said, I'll shut up and let you go where you want to go, Tim.
No, that's pretty much exactly the way I kind of wanted to drift off here. I think what I got out of what Bill said, and it's the same thing you got, which is that, he's doing something different. He's doing something that does make him stand out. And I'll share the words that kind of resonated with me when he said that. I was listening a couple of days ago to a podcast from some people that I respect just in the marketing world, and they made a very interesting point. They said you only have competition if you choose to compete the way they compete.
Mm. Hmm.
And I thought about that for a minute and I said, well, that's an interesting idea. And if the people that you're wanting to talk to, if they see what you're doing as the same thing everybody else is doing, or you're one of those people that's calling them, or you're one of the realtors or one of the investors, you're not doing your job. You are competing by the other people's rules. If you do something to set yourself aside from that, now everybody else is competing with you and you're in the lead. And I realize that kind of sounds overly simplified, but the reality is you can only compete in a race if you choose to run the same race everybody else is running. If you run a slightly different race, they're all trying to catch you. And what Bill's doing is differentiating himself from the market. And that's the key element with all of this. Do something unexpected, disruptive, do something that separates you from the pack. And, Bruce said it better than I did. I throw a lot of words at it, but I think that's important. Bill, let me ask you one other quick question about this. And it was asked by somebody in text. They kind of want to know what all is in your package other than the CMA. What else are you throwing in there?
So I put in so I put in property details, and then the next tab is I put the Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, a couple other automated values, because the bottom line, that's what, when you're marketing a home, you got to realize buyers are going to look there first. So how are you going to overcome that, or maybe that exceeds what their home's value is? And then I go ahead and I tell them just a printout of the MLS about all the homes that are on the market, right? I just print out every active listing in Sonoma, Roanoke Park, so they can see the competition. And then I put the CMA in there, and then I normally put some MLS listings in there, the printout sheets that we have, so it looks a little different. And then I put in my marketing, what I would do, and what makes me different. I really feature my marketing because I use a professional company that does it all for me, and they are incredible. And then I just put something in there about myself. I call it my story. So, and then I put a contract and some disclosure in there. I just really give them a complete, almost listing presentation without me pitching it in front of them. And it seems to really make people realize that I'll go the extra mile, because that's a lot of stuff. I'm really looking forward to finding an assistant to just start doing that for everything I do without me having to do anything but the comps.
Wouldn't that be a great idea if something like that existed?
Yeah.
That's great. That's
Why
great.
why you got one?
I'm not going to say anything. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. That's really why I'm picking your brain here because, we're always looking at, there's a mercenary side to what we do, which is that our value is in the duration of your time with us.
Right.
We have people that literally have been with us and been customers of ours since 2014. And, it'd be great if everybody signs up, never goes away, and, we'd all be rich and flying around on jet planes, but it doesn't work that way. And the biggest factor in any subscription-based business is churn. And we know that people who are being successful and who make money every month using the products that we sell are going to stick around. So our job is to do everything we can to do exactly what you said. Make it easy, do something unique and automated and get it so that it works for everybody. So we're always working on looking at that. And we've realized obviously that if I'm going to eat my own dog food, if all we do is sell leads, then we're in the same boat everybody else that's selling leads is. So in order to separate ourselves, that's why we created a print division and why we created the website side and why we're working with Matt and his group and all of the things that we do. We try to create it as a system, but the thing that we also know is we need to this year do a better job of making the whole thing easy. So literally you're pushing one button, it happens every month, everything works out great. And the components of what you want might be different in terms of what you want to put out to people. They may be very different than what Bruce wants to put out. And we need to kind of give you some options of things that you can do that will meet your needs and then do it for you and make it easy. So you don't have to worry about it. You just know that it's going to go out. You get a report that says 16 people got this and, get after them. And that would be great. So we're working on things like that. And we'll be talking some more about them as we move forward. Mr. Matt, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well. How are things in Cleveland?
Cold, but as far as I wanted to piggyback off of what Bill had said about Homebot, it's something that we've actually put in our training. Homebot's an absolute game changer because, the ultimate objective of how we look at it when you have a nurture, how do you stay in front of someone 52 times at a minimum throughout the year without driving them nuts? And so Homebot eliminates anywhere between 12 to 24 touches. And so it sends out via email. I actually experienced Homebot because my agent had me set up for it, and even though she's in Florida, she was sending me these Homebot basically like breakdowns of everything that was going on in my neighborhood here locally in Ohio, and it was really cool to see because I was able to kind of look and see, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's my house positioned at, what are some things that I can do to, get more from it. And I mean, I don't know if, I mean, I think everyone should use it. I mean, for what I think the investment last time I looked was like 27 or $28 a month. And I mean, it's worth its weight in gold. So I've seen a lot of, I tell all of our clients to get into Homebot because it's really good for the nurture side. Because, if you can't get them on the phone right away, sending that out makes a huge difference. So
Cool. Yeah, we're hearing more and more about that, and those are some of the things, like I said, that we look at to, what can we do to help the automation coming along to do those things.
in other good news, we started beta testing with some of our other clients, like past clients, and just kind of seeing how the ads are working. We've already gotten 2 people to fill out registration for them. So and we launched it 2 days ago. So not a bad start.
Maybe you talk a little bit more about that for people who have no clue about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I probably should give a little context. So basically what we do is we provide the calling service for anyone that does probate, pre-probate, divorced, distress leads. And so right now we have the video that we're running to retarget your leads on Facebook. What we're essentially doing is we're putting together a very heartfelt video. It kind of meets them where they're at, and so they click the link. They then get more information, and essentially for probate, we're leading more for, hey, there's an abundance of resources that you may not know that are readily available to you. We'll show you some ways that you can, offset some of the, some of the costs like clean out services or, some of the other elements that go along into the probate process. So we put that in the video, and people absolutely love that because it's, yard maintenance. It's pretty much everything that someone's going to need once they're not living at the home, or they're not, like, if it's someone that's out of state more than anything, they're going to need those services. So we tell them a little bit about, what these services are, how we could show them how they can do it for little to no out-of-pocket expense. And then for pre-probate, I'm very excited because we've put together a script for it. And basically what we're kind of going through is, hey, I wish I knew this before I hired our attorney. We could show you how to zero cost your expenses for the attorney. And then they essentially click on that link, get a little bit more information, and then we reach out to them and then set them up with the agent. So it's so far, I mean, the small beta test we've ran, just we'd like to run a test first before we bring it live. I mean, it's already generated 2 opportunities, and those are folks that I don't know would have picked up the phone had we called, or they may not have even responded to a mail piece. But it's just one extra it's just one additional vertical to get them to reply.
And these are people that, you know, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of your probate leads, your divorce or pre-probate or anything of those things, these are retargeted for the leads that you already have. They're coming from your people.
Yep.
And I think that's a unique value that you know, Matt's created to do that, literally to make that work so that, you know, you're getting people who are highly enough motivated that they want to get additional information from somebody who's knowledgeable about real estate and probate or real estate and divorce or whatever the discipline is that you're working. And, you know, it's not going to be a high volume issue, but the people that do fill that out are going to be probably more motivated than most of your leads are. So it's a brilliant idea and, you know, adds a lot of value for what Matt is offering and making the calls for you. So I think that's a great thing. Cool beans. Arlene, what's cooking with you these days?
No, it all sounds really good. I'm appreciating what everybody's saying and what I'm hearing. You know, definitely thinking about a lot about follow-up and making sure systemizing and having ways to follow up in multiple touches. So all of that is so crucial because touching and getting out and making that first initial phone call or phone calls or a first initial letter, but nothing following beyond that is I think futile effort. So definitely having a very strong follow-up is key.
Cool. Very cool. Steve, I'll get to you in a second. I'm going to bother you, but right now, Ann, if you will unmute yourself, there you go. How can we help you today?
Hi, good morning. I just kind of wanted to follow up on Matt's discussion there. I have recently looked at Homebot, but I wanted to know if anyone has looked at My Home IQ. It's a competitor and I think maybe a little cheaper, but just since I'm researching myself, just wanting to know if anyone's looked at that.
Bill says he has. What, any comments, Bill?
So one is I like how Homebot interacts with my lender seamlessly, and she has done an amazing job at um, keeping me informed on the people she's refinanced, whatnot. It's really worked out when an heir wants to buy out the other people that are in the will or the situation, because often that's not possible. But the other thing that I have really found is that I like the presentation of Homebot. It's very easy. A lot of the Homebot that I've used in probate is a surviving spouse who's usually older, and they seem to really understand that. I tried my IQ with my mom and some of her friends, and they didn't like it. So, and my mom's in a retirement home, so they had nothing else to do other than compare and criticize.
I
So,
like that.
yeah, so you know, I just like Homebot. It's been around, it's very inexpensive, it's very reliable. I use it on my home and I'm very impressed with it. So the price for the price, I just, you know, and even if it was $25 more or $100 more, I'd stay with Homebot. But I have in my Homebot, I have 1,500 people. Out of that 1,500 people, I have 256 that are active looking at things all the time. And I definitely get a request for a CMA out of there, if not every week, 3 or 4 times a week. So it's a very, very, very good tool. I would just encourage you to find a CMA program. I'm not a wild fan of Toolkit CMA, but what I really liked about Toolkit CMA, it's $20 a month. And when you email the CMA to them, it tells you when they've opened it up. And I really like that because then I know I need to follow up with a call.
Cool. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Great, good objective review as well. I appreciate that. Mr. Carney, how are you today, sir?
Doing great, other than a couple of problems with the computer before we started, but all's well. One of the things I'd like to say is I really with Eileen, one of the things in the coaching calls is talking with folks.
Steve, can you get just a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, let me beep this up. one of the things I found in a coaching call is just the idea that you have to set up a time as to when folks that you reached out to, you left a message to, that you're going to call them again. And while it's great to do outbounds for all the leads you have, you also got to check back with those that maybe you had a touch with, and when you do that. And the CRM is great in all the leads, it'll work it, but if you don't make that effort, you're not going to get there. So these leads age well, as you like to say, Tim. So even if you speak to somebody like the lady I spoke to this morning, said, this guy said, hey, I'm probably going to sell, but probably not till April. She goes, should I wait till April to contact him? I said, no, I'd be contacting the third week of February. Hey, I had some time today, thought about you, just reaching out to see where you are, just to get a conversation going. And I think that's so critical to keep the conversation going. I'm intrigued by what Bill said about Homebot, just the idea that you can get additional information and put folks in there, and that's intriguing, because I know there's a way to do that where you got to automate, because you're not going to be able to do all this yourself. You can't keep track of it. This person I was speaking with this morning, she was telling me about 170 leads, and Matt, she's in your program. I did say that's good. Make sure you're trying to find out what your objectives are with the anticipated leads during the week. And she was like, well, what do I do? Do I just let them do 10 touches? I was like, no, I think what you're looking for is something Bruce said last night, Probate 2.0. Hopefully what you're getting is leads from that person for you to call back, because she is a realtor. She's busy. She's rounding out her portfolio. She's been through probate herself with her parent. And, you know, the empathy that goes with it is great. But I said, you need more time carved out in your schedule to call back to those leads, so she can go in, negotiate, and actually close that deal. Matt's folks are going to tee it up for her. And like Bruce said last night, I'd rather have 10 out of 100, and Matt's guys and gals are doing the 90 that you don't have to spend the time on. So that's just so key. It all dovetails in.
Cool beans. Well, all these things that we're talking about are literally about how to separate yourself from the herd. And that's really the key element here. There are, somebody the other day was saying, you know, it's a floating number, but somewhere between 2 and 3 million people out there claim to be real estate agents or involved in the business in some way. And, you know, separating yourself from that many people is difficult to go do. And it's difficult only if you don't take the time to do some investigating. What you're hearing here is that, you know, Bill spent a lot of time looking at the tools. Bruce spends a lot of time looking at the tools. All of our coaches do. All of the people that are successful are looking at the tools. All you got to do is kind of watch what's going on the various news sources that are out there. And, you know, there's a dizzying array of new toys to play with every day. You know, if you don't see something you like, throw it into Chat GPT and ask about it, and you'll find pretty quickly somebody probably invent it for you. It'll be out there the next day. So what do you trust? What do you not trust? Those are the kind of key elements. And I think one of the things we'll do in a future call, we'll probably do it during February, is talk about tools. Talk about the tools that you're using as well. I'll admit that from my standpoint, our team standpoint, that would not be a totally altruistic thing to just make the call about that. We want to learn what you're using to see what is best to integrate into what we're doing, because it's like everything else. The more that we can do to, when the leads drop and they're available for you, automatically wonderful things happen. That's what we want to make happen, so that everything that you need to be happening at the time those leads are available happens. And you know that 3 days after your leads arrive, this happens. 5 days after this happens. A week after this happens. These are things that have happened. They happen through the course of a month. And you get an email every day that tells you, hey, here's all the stuff that was done for you while you were sleeping. Here's what you need to be doing today in response to that. And that's kind of the holy grail that we kind of tend to chase. So we'll probably announce something as we go here on a future call during the month of February to talk about that specifically, and get to it. If anybody has anything they want to add, Bruce, you look like you're about ready to say something, are you?
Tim, I'm itching. Okay. All right. Tools. Uh, okay, where do I start? Because there's like three things that are really important. Number one, tools. There are a ton of tools out there. The agents and the investors that are the most successful normally are the most simplistic in their business. Okay, there's a bajillion tools out there. We just heard Bill talk about Homebot. I don't use Homebot, and I don't use CMAs. Uh, and people all the time come to me and they say, "Why don't you use those things?" And I go, "Because I'm my system's already set. I'm running clean." When they ask me about skip tracers, that occasionally I need to skip trace a lead that I don't have a good phone number for them, and I give them the skip tracer I use, and they go, "Well, I've found that." These two or three skip tracers are better than yours. And I go, I don't care. I I picked the tool that I'm actually going to use. Okay. So Bill, even if my home IQ was better, Bill would probably be settled in on HomeBot because he picked the tool that he is going to use and utilize. CRMs, we go chasing CRMs all the time. We go chasing new lead sources all the time. Now, if you don't have all the leads, probate or divorce leads, then maybe you should get those. But no, we chase lead types all the time, and we chase different marketing. And the reality is, we can just spend all of our time trying to find the next best thing when what we have in our hand is already working. Right. Now, I'm going to completely change gears here really quickly. I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that you should aim for simplicity in your business. Simple yet utilized. This business is not difficult to compete. So, Tim said there's 2 million agents. It can be a little bit difficult to compete. When you figure it out, this business is not difficult to compete. You just have to know what your consumers want and what their experience is. Speaking of that, I did a lead review, a pipeline review this morning, and I was a little bit embarrassed that I've had a couple of people sitting in my pipeline for a long time that I haven't touched for quite a while. So we were kind of going through as a team, looking at the people that we've added into the pipeline over the last several months, 4 or 5 months, and going, oh my gosh, I guarantee we've lost this person. I guarantee we've lost that person. And it's really funny, the three people that I was most confident that we had lost because they were added to the pipeline earliest, and all three of them had a time frame for selling in a month or two. So all three of these individuals that are 5 months in my pipeline all said it's going to be a month or two before we sell, probably a month or two. None of them are sold or on the market. So I want you guys to recognize that it's easy to not compete in this space when you don't do anything and you don't keep track of your leads or you think that they're going to move too fast. It's also easy to compete in this space when you realize that these families, these heirs, these executors, and personal representatives, they get bogged down with things just like we do. And you have a runway. If they know five agents or investors in the beginning, the first time you talk to them and they say, "Yeah, I'm gonna list with my neighbor's brother's cousin," okay? You might automatically think, hey, you know what, I don't have a deal here. 6 months later, you'll find out that they don't. Another thing that you find out a lot of times when if you ask about real estate, is they'll say, hey, we're thinking about keeping it. That was a mistake that I made a lot in the beginning of my probate niche. I would hear that, yeah, we're thinking about keeping it. And then I'd be ticked when 4 months later, 5 months later, I'd see the house on the market or the house sold. So we need to recognize that these folks many times don't go lightning fast. And that is the blessing about the probate. And I think I'm going to argue the divorce niche as well. I'm very guilty of sometimes hyper fixating on probate, and I think divorce is right there with it. But that's the good thing with these prospects, these relationships that we're building, is they don't go fast. And if you look at that and go, well, that's not the lead for me, then I would say that you're probably a little bit too short-sighted in your business. You want the lead source where people get stuck and they don't move in an appropriate, reasonable amount of time. Because everybody else is going to do what I did with these people and forget about them. Okay. And then you're going to keep in touch and go look and realize that it's not that hard to stand out when you know that you have 5 or 6 months to do so. All right. So I needed to get those couple of things out. I absolutely disagree with Tim that it can be hard to stand out when you figure it out. And I know Tim didn't mean it that way, but when you realize um, what your consumer is going through and what their experience and time frame is going to be, it can be very easy to stand out from the crowd. You just have to see what their experience is. You have to understand how fast they move, how fast they don't move, and where they get stuck, and be there, memorable with the packages that Bill was talking about, be memorable at the time when they're getting ready. So, and All the Leads has amazing marketing tools for that. The call tools, the following people around online that Matt was talking about, the retargeting. There's so many things that can be implemented without a lot of effort to stand out.
Well, and I think, point well taken, there are 2 million people heading towards the door. How do you get in front of the line? That would be a different way to look at it. But it's like, yes, you're correct. It is easy. There's stuff out there to do it. If the only thing I would say is, if it's so easy, how come everybody doesn't do it? Well, the
It's also
reality
easy
is,
not to do.
pardon?
It's also easy not to do.
Absolutely. And 99% of the people that are doing it, or 99.9% of the people that you're competing against, aren't going to do anything different. The meager training that they get from whatever they get when they started, basically it says, friends and neighbors, that, circle prospecting, do the things that, do the same things that people have always done, and it generates results. It does do it. I mean, there are reasons to make that work and reasons to operate that way. The value in taking new tools and new toys to do it is that's how you stand out. We constantly look at the mailing pieces that we do and we go, well, how do we make them different? And the same thing with our letters that we put out. We started out by saying, well, we won't put them out in number 10 envelopes. We'll put them in greeting card size envelopes, and we'll put them in colors, and we'll make the fonts that we use, script fonts. Well, that wasn't enough. So we not only made them script fonts, but we actually use a bunch of technology and we make them into each address is actually an image that goes on that, and it's slightly skewed, just as it would be if you were doing it by hand. And all the things that we do, we just try to get better all the time. And it's like anything else. We could simply put them in number 10s and send them out the door, and probably 80% of the people, that'd be good enough for them. They'd be happy. We want to do more than that. We always kind of try and do more. And Steve points out that the stamp is also slightly skewed. And yes, that's correct. We put the stamps on not as correctly as we could either, because people are touching these. And that's what people want. They don't want to get something everybody else got. They want to get something unique. Aline, you're up. What were you going to say?
Yeah, so I wanted to speak into one of the things that, for me, when I started calling probate leads at the very beginning, and my first experience was sending out the mailers and making the phone calls and getting that call back that somebody blasted me, saying, don't ever call again. You can imagine all the flowery things that were said about how ambulance chasing all the way down the line. And that alone can really derail somebody who's calling probate, divorce difficult. We typically get that a lot more than maybe somebody who's calling a for sale by owner or an expired. So we're dealing with a much more sensitive matter. And we're going to be more likely getting those types of responses. And like we have to pivot with different, like what Bill was saying was, you get that and you have to literally just pivot and come up with a different, what's my approach? What do I think may have triggered that person to think that, other than just being upset in the moment, right? Because if we're calling them, we don't know what is going on for them in that moment. We're not physically there with them. So it could be a slew of things. Somebody could have really angered them in the moment, or they're just still very emotional. So understanding that it's not personal, it's not you, it's them in that moment and what they're going through, and pivot and have it be an opportunity to tweak what you're saying, what you're sending, how you're expressing yourself. And for me, it allowed me to figure out a different way to approach people so that they could be more responsive to me. And of course, I still get those phone calls where those responses where people get upset. But over time, we're able to, brush it off and pivot and move forward. So I think that's equally important
Well, and I think
in our approach.
the thing to remember there is that, if you're approaching this in the right way and your heart's where it needs to be, that you have something they need. Things they don't know, that you can help protect them against disaster. We've been doing these calls long enough. We have heard horror story after horror story about stuff that happens to people in probate because of what they didn't know, what they didn't think to ask.
Absolutely. And I agree that, I'm sorry, Tim, I agree that when the approach is, I know I'm coming from a place of service, I know I'm coming and offering you something that's so valuable, it's a different aura that you bring than, oh my gosh, I hope they don't hang up, I hope they don't scream at me. It's quite different, the approach, because I know I'm bringing value to the person on the other end.
And the person that is gonna react negatively to what you're doing probably is the person that needs it the most, because they've already turned it off. And it goes right back to what we said in the beginning. Not only that, but they've been reacting to all of the other 2 million people that have been contacting them because it was the same approach. You're just one of those people. If you do something that makes you not one of those people and clearly demonstrates that you've got something of value to offer them, that's the key to all of this. And that's what you're saying, what Bruce said, but everybody's kind of said the same thing. So it's kind of a great way to take off at our opportunity this morning. I want to also just one other thing to say. Somebody asked in the chat, Matt is on here and generously gives his time to show up every time we have this call. And so said, well, how do you find out more about what they're doing? Just go to alltheleads.com/ISA. And that will tell you everything that you need to know short term about what Matt and his folks do. And there's a little form on there to fill out. And once the forms fill out, they're going to reach out to you, talk to you, explain exactly what they do, learn more about what you're doing, figure out how to customize it for what you do. And you'll have automated another step in your process. It's particularly important when you've got a large bunch of leads and you're not going to get to all of them. I don't care how good you are, there are things that you do sometimes that put you in a situation you're just not going to be able to do that. And that's a great reason to have somebody else do it, because the one that you don't contact is the one that had the best potential. And if you want to find out whether that's true or not, go back and take your leads from 6 months ago and hop into the MLS and see what's gotten sold that you didn't know about, that you didn't deal with, you didn't touch, you didn't talk to. So great ways to do all of that. I'm going to switch gears and ask a question here. First of all, this will involve you playing along with me here a little bit, and that is in the react button. So be awake that you got to find the little kind of, on my screen, it's heart at the bottom. I'm going to ask us for a quick show of hands about something. And this is an informal survey, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So one of the things that we have kind of looked at as a company a long time, as sort of the holy grail of if we could do this, it would be a great thing and a great service for people. We are at this point in some serious discussions with some funding sources that can help fund acquisition of property based on criteria. And what I mean by that is that if there was a place that you could take a lead, a deal that you found, and plug in some small set of information about that to find out if a lender would in fact toss you some dough to get things done, to rehab the property and get it on the market and all that, and wait till you close to collect and all those sorts of things, and do it at a competitive rate, and you didn't have to chase it, and they'll do it and make it easy on you. Is that a resource that you would use? So my first question is this. I love the hearts. Thank you very much. That's always good. My question is, by a quick show of hands, and I'm going to look at everybody's thing here. How many of you actively consider yourself to be not only a real estate agent, but also an investor? Raise your hand, please. Bruce to Bruce. So I'm going to assume that the rest of you either simply don't want to play, or you are just an agent, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but that's what you do. You're a real estate agent, you're not an investor. So let me ask the second part of my question, and that's this. If you had the ability to work with that, and hey, Dave, I saw that. Thank you, bud. If you had the ability to take a deal and throw it over there and find the ability to become an investor almost hands off in the same way that we're doing other things, and I see other people are responding, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you had the ability to do that, what we're trying to do is figure out a way to automate that kind of process as well. We already have data on the property because we give it to you. When we do it, we furnish it with the lead, it's there. If you had the ability to take that data set, push a button, and maybe answer 3 or 4 more questions about it, showing that in fact you had done more than just gotten a lead and threw it in the box to see if it would work. If you did that and then it was able to be handed off to someone who in fact would lend the money, is that something that would be useful to you? And I saw that, you know, very nice. Christine did the smiling hearts and all that. Now she's raised her hand. We'll take that in just a second. So we're going to try and create a program that does that. That basically does a little bit of pre-screening and works with the investor group that we're working with. We think they're excited about working with you. We're excited about working with them, and a lot of good things happening out of that. So, Christine, did you have something you wanted to add as well? If you want to, I'll unmute you there. Go ahead.
Thank you. My husband is a small investor. We have a couple of rentals. So I personally have not been investing. I went from a 9 to 5 to now I'm a realtor, and I'm a new realtor, and I will be signing up with Jordan for the pre-probate. So I just appreciate you letting me come on before I sign up. I'm very, very excited about this, and I've already started putting my packet together. But I am interested because I've done some remodels already, and I think this is a great idea, a great resource.
Super. Well, where this came from, about in the early 2000s, actually probably I guess we're now more toward the mid 2000s, we put a program like this together for commercial real estate. And it was a venture capital company that we worked with to put this together, and it pre-screened every deal. Now, what ended up happening, and we figured that out as we went, is that everybody was going on LoopNet, finding something that had a reasonable cap rate, threw it in the box to see if it would work, and you know, everybody submitted 10 and hoped one of them got approved. It didn't work out very well to do that because the data that we needed to make it worthwhile to pursue wasn't in there. So we've got to be smart about, you know, the things that we do that basically are basically making it look good to the investor side of this so that they're interested in working with it. But we're trying to do it so that, you know, they're not having to put boots on the ground in every, you know, part of the country to approve or not approve. They're going to basically trust us to put a good batch of stuff together and take a certain amount of money and take a flyer on it. So we're gonna offer that coming up as soon as we solidify some of the things that we're doing. And I don't usually pre-announce things, but thought I'd just see what you guys had to say. And I think it's important to know that, you know, there are a bunch of you out there who are doing investing and or want to do investing, and we may make it easier for you to do that going forward as well. Obviously, part of this is predicated on the fact that we know that the late mortgage product is a, hot investor product, works well there, as well as being a realtor product. And so, it's one of the reasons that we're trying to create this product to go with it. So I appreciate your feedback from that. Guys, we got 6 minutes left. Anybody have anything exciting they would like to add? Anybody got a win of the week that they'd like to share? Bill, you definitely started us with the idea of the week with your discussion about your package and all that. So I think you carved that one off, but anybody have a win they want to share or a challenge that they're dealing with? And let's see, Roger says, okay. All right, I'm going to add one other thing to think about, and this is a thing, Bill, I'm going to kind of close with you on this. Don't know where you are and what you know about this, but according to our legal group, one of the things that we've found is that laws changing in California in April that houses below, I think it's 750, are not going to necessarily require the same probate that they did before. Do you know about that? Nope. That was a no. I can't tell if you said, oh, there you go, unmute. Can you unmute? There we go.
Yeah. So I have not heard about that, but I just had lunch with an attorney yesterday, and I don't.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way, but nothing surprises me in California.
Well, one of the things that we heard was that what they're doing is they're raising the dollar amount that does not require to go to probate, that you can basically handle per se and not necessarily open probate for. That they're adding a couple of more forms, but if you fill the forms out, you don't have to open probate to do it. I'll send you the information we have so that you can kind of maybe get up to speed on that a little bit. Maybe next time we talk, you can talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I read and that our legal folks said, one of the things that we do every month is that we get a summary of changes in laws and things like that that may pertain to what we do. And this is one of the things that came out, is that this may be something that occurs in other states where other states are going to raise the threshold of non-judicial probate so that you don't have to go to court to do it. You fill out the forms and it gets approved. So I'll challenge you to learn a little bit more about that if you could. Maybe next time we're together, you can talk a little bit about that in California, because we think it's probably going to be potentially at least a bellwether for other states where, today maybe it doesn't require it if it's under $200,000. Now they're saying they'll make it $400,000 or whatever. In your state, you may see that those kinds of initiatives are getting on the docket for whatever your legislative timeframes are. Yep, and I see that, Steve. I did see that as well. Anyway, guys, it's the top of the hour. If you have nothing else, I'll wait a second, and anybody wants to raise their hand, they can. And if not, Bruce, do you want to take a whack at the Jim speech, or should I do it? So as Jim would say, find one thing you got off of this call today and take it and put it in practice, come back next week and tell us about it. Thanks to everybody who participated today. We appreciate it. We appreciate you, and we're working hard to make sure we continue to earn your trust in your business. And let's close January out really strong and start the second month of the year. Can you believe we're already heading toward the second month of this year? Hope you made January a great year. Make February an even better month than January was. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for being here.